You're listening to Heroes in the Moment. What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
And today we're doing a TikTok trend. Oddly enough, we don't usually do those, but we're doing Pick 5, Cut 5. We're super excited to get into that with Pick 5, Cut 5 movies. See, I'll give 10 movies to Nathan.
Okay.
He'll pick 5 and then cut 5.
Yeah.
And then he'll give me 10 movies, and then the same goes there. So, in celebration of Dune Part 2, as we just had our Dune Part 2 movie review came out recently, we're going to start out. I'm giving Nathan 10 sci-fi movies.
10 sci-fi
where he'll
movies.
pick and cut 5. And then you're going to give me what?
10 fantasy
10
movies.
fantasy movies. Kind of fit with our theme that we're going with today, around the board with the fiction movies here. So we're going to get right into it. A lot of fun here. If you don't know the rules, I'll give Nathan the list of 10 movies.
Okay.
He'll go through, say which one he's locked in, that one's staying, then cut, and then just go back and forth until we have the 5 he picks.
Okay.
And then 5 cuts. So
Yeah, fair enough.
all right. Are you ready for my 10 sci-fi movies, Nathan?
Yeah, I think I'm ready.
All right.
I have watched Dune. I've watched the big ones, so I feel pretty confident.
I feel pretty confident in these movies as well. All right. So starting off, first movie I'm going to give you, Interstellar.
Ooh.
Next movie, Avatar: The Way of Water.
Okay. All right.
Next one, Back to the Future.
Okay. Ooh, classic.
Then we got Arrival. And then we got
I love that one.
Dune Part 1, 2021.
Okay. Dune 1.
Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
Wall-E.
Oh, that's good. That's a good.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh man, come on, Michael.
The Matrix.
The Matrix. Okay.
And 2001: A Space Odyssey as your 10 sci-fi movies.
Ah, man.
Let me know if you need me to read this again faster.
That's a good list. That's a really good list. Okay, so I'm picking them based on what I think the top 5 are, or
Yeah, you pick
My
the 5
favorites.
you want your favorites. I mean, I would say pick the ones you feel like you should keep. Like, so for example, you're picking the movies that you'll be able to watch again. You're cutting the movies you're never going to see them again. It's basically how this is going to
I think I'm gonna start with quality.
go. Okay.
You just listed off some pretty legendary movies. A lot of these are classics. In terms of which one is objectively the worst film, it hates me. You know, I hate to say it, and I grew up watching it. I think my first cut is gonna be Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, wow. Wow, so you're cutting Revenge of the Sith.
Just objectively speaking, you know, I probably give that a good 7.5 out of 10. But these other ones, you know, they're classics. They're really high up on IMDb, and I think there's a little more rewatchability, maybe.
Okay.
In that sense.
Wow, that's a major cut.
Yeah,
People might not like that
Yeah,
cut.
I know. Well, you know what? They can deal with it. This is my list.
Revenge of the Sith, your first cut.
So I'm going Revenge of the Sith with my first cut. All right,
Okay.
So give me that list again.
All right, so we got remaining Interstellar, Avatar: The Way of Water, Back to the Future, Arrival, Dune Part 1, Wall-E, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Matrix, and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Am I telling you what I'm cutting, or can I tell you what I'm gonna keep?
Tell me a pick. Give me a pick. Gotta go back and forth here.
Okay,
Back and forth.
for a keep, I think my first keep is gonna be Arrival by
Good
Denis. That's one of my favorite movies all time. I don't feel like I can really talk about the plot in detail because I don't want to spoil it, even though it came out like 2016.
Yeah, sure.
It's one of those movies that after you watch it, you're just kind of in that headspace. You're just left thinking, what would I do in this scenario? Would I make those same decisions? And a lot of these movies are really awesome. They're based on books. You know. But just, man, with Arrival, that's a beautiful movie.
Great
It wasn't at all
performances.
great performances. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I have to keep
All
that
right.
one just
First
basically
pick.
because,
Wow,
man,
first
it
pick. Okay.
just, you know, even like 3-4 days later, I was still asking myself
yeah.
those same questions that the main characters were in the end of the movie. So
Picking that
I'm gonna
Arrival.
keep that one.
Okay.
My second cut, I'm
you can
gonna
give
cut.
another pick if you want to. You can do a pick.
I think I'm gonna rotate here. I'm gonna try to
rotate.
rotate. I think
right.
I'm gonna cut Avatar: Way of Water.
I knew that was coming. I figured you'd cut that.
Yeah, it's not my favorite movie.
It's a good movie.
It's very good. I mean, the visuals are stunning.
Out of this world, absolutely.
You know, we talked about this movie. It does tend to drag a little bit in the second act. It's definitely something that you watch in the theater. I can't really
absolutely.
imagine myself sitting down on a Tuesday night watching, a 3.5 hour James
Right.
Cameron movie. So unfortunately, I'm cutting The Way of Water.
I figured you would.
No hate there, but
I figured you would.
I've never been too much into the whole Avatar world. I have a hard time kind of connecting with the characters. Maybe because they're blue. I don't know. I don't have anything against blue people. So I think I'm gonna cut Way of Water.
Okay, all right, understandable.
My next keep. I'm gonna keep Back to the Future.
Okay, yeah, it's a classic.
It's a classic.
I mean, it's a classic, right?
I just feel like I get crucified, honestly, by some
true.
of our friends. I mean,
you're done if you
it's one of the best sci-fi movies of all time.
Absolutely.
It changed the game.
And it was one of the first to ever do it, really.
It was one of the first ever
besides,
do it.
the original Star Wars.
So we really can't be having this conversation without this movie.
That's for sure.
So that consider I'm going Arrival, I'm going Back to the Future.
Okay.
I've already cut to give me the list one more time.
All right, so remaining we have Interstellar, Dune Part 1, WALL-E, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Matrix, and 2001: A Space Odyssey, and you've kept Back to the Future and Arrival.
Okay, my next cut. I know I was just harping on keeping Back to the Future because it's an absolute classic. This movie is also a classic, and to my knowledge, it's top 20 on IMDb. But I'm cutting it. I'm cutting The Matrix.
Wow. Wow.
This one definitely is tough.
You might get some hate for that, but I understand.
I got to be honest. I've only ever watched the first one. I hear it's the best one.
That's the only one you need to watch. Right, I've watched all three, and you don't even consider the fourth one.
Yeah,
and the first one's the only one.
I'm not a huge fan of the world. Okay. I don't think the movie has awesome stellar performances.
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd cut this one.
And some of that, like grainy 90s action is just not for me.
I think it was early 2000s.
What's it, early 2000s?
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's early 2000s.
Maybe it's early 2000s. Sorry, I thought it was late 90s. Something like that. But point is, I'm not saying it's not a good movie. I just have a hard time watching it.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
I'm going to cut that one as my third one.
Or Keanu Reeves.
I know. I love Keanu. My favorite Keanu role is John Wick. But he's definitely improved a lot as an actor since then. But I didn't love him in that role.
Okay.
So now I'm keeping one. Okay.
All right. So you got to pick your next pick. What are you keeping?
Man. Dude, I got to pick between like Everything, Everywhere, WALL-E. I got to pick.
You got Interstellar, Dune Part 1, 2001.
Okay.
What's your next pick?
Oh.
I feel like there's an obvious one here you haven't picked, and I'm kind of surprised. But I can't say anything.
This is hard. You did a good job on this one.
Thank you. I try my hardest.
I'm going to keep Interstellar.
Thank you. I was getting nervous.
I'm going to keep Interstellar.
Is he not going to keep Interstellar?
It's what, like a top 50, top 100 movie of all time.
Yeah,
at least according to
is
it top 30?
I'm pretty
according to IMDb. Matthew McConaughey has always been one of my favorite actors. He has a huge, diverse role of characters that he can play. While the whole time thing is cool and traveling through space and all the sci-fi stuff is cool. It's truly heartbreaking at its core. A cautionary tale about the world. A story about a dad and his daughter. And it just wrecks me. So
it's a great movie.
It's so emotional.
Got robbed at the Oscars.
I know it did. What was that 2014?
Yeah, 2015 Oscars, but came out in 2014.
Who won that?
I can't remember who won Best Picture, but it wasn't Interstellar. The biggest one that lost, they didn't win Best Score.
Yeah.
And they should have won Best Score.
And that was arguably one of the greatest, years for an actor of all time, because he also did True Detective season 1.
Yes.
And he did one other huge project at
2014 was just a great year in general.
It was a great year. So I have to keep Interstellar. Like I said, dude, I haven't watched it in probably since high school.
You need to rewatch it. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I do. I really do. It just hurt, but I got to keep that one. My next cut, I hate to do this. It's a recent watch. I watched it 2 months ago in preparation for the new one being released, but I got to cut Dune Part 1.
Yeah, I figured that one as well.
That one definitely hurts. It's a masterpiece. I do like it. Like we were talking about before we started recording, a lot of that movie just laying the groundwork. That first hour and a half goes by really quickly. It's action packed. There's a lot of subtle, just movements in the face, nods, little stuff that unless you really read the books, you won't pick up.
Right.
So a lot of people know they'll fall asleep. They won't pick up much. I thankfully picked up a lot more on the second time.
Right.
But I mean, in comparison to some of the other movies, I can't put Dune Part 1 in that same conversation.
I think that's a fair cut.
So I've cut 4 now.
You cut 4. So now we have 3 movies remaining.
So I have to pick.
You have to pick one, and then you got to cut and then pick. So
I got to pick 2 more.
You got to pick 2 more and then cut 1 more. So we have WALL-E, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and 2001: A Space Odyssey remaining.
All right.
You got to go ahead and pick one.
I think
your 4th pick.
My 4th pick. With this pick, I'm gonna go with something similar to Arrival. That
okay.
Oh man, this is tough. I feel bad leaving anything out.
I made it tough. I know.
This movie is it's a cautionary tale. It was made a while ago, and I feel like it's more prevalent in today's society than some of these other movies. To be honest with you, this movie is also, according to my knowledge, is the highest rated Pixar movie, sitting at I think like number 60 or 69. So I'm keeping Wall-E.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I have to. You know, this is a movie that I grew up watching.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of reminiscent of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like really, when you think about it, with the with the AI, with some of the robots taking over, with how bad humanity gets to where they can't even walk, and they're living on these different in these different places. I think it's a cautionary tale. I think it's even more prevalent now. I think the geniuses for thinking about it in like, what was it, late 2000s?
Yeah, like 2010, I believe.
Yeah, and it was a big part of my childhood. I think it's even more just compelling because Wall-E obviously doesn't speak English.
Right.
So just the emotion that's conveyed through his acting, through his eyes, through a freaking robot is absolutely crazy.
That is crazy.
So I feel like I have to put Wall-E in there.
Okay. So
yeah.
Recap here is you've kept Interstellar, Back to the Future, Arrival, and Wall-E. You've cut Avatar: The Way of Water, Dune Part 1, Revenge of the Sith, and The Matrix. So the remaining
I'm comfortable with that so far.
Remaining two to pick and cut is Everything Everywhere All at Once and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Ooh, okay.
Hard picks.
Yeah, the last 2 movies ago, Michael and I, we watched 2001: A Space Odyssey together.
We did.
Recently. I did not understand it then. I've looked at some Letterboxd comments since then, watched a couple of videos. I understand what it's about now.
Yes.
I can safely say. And then Everything Everywhere, I watched it. What was it? Was it last year? Was it 23 came out? Or 22? 22?
Yeah, 22.
I absolutely loved it. One of the best A24 films I've ever seen. But along the same lines, I feel like I have to keep... No, I'm cutting. I'm gonna have to cut Everything Everywhere All at Once.
That's an unfortunate cut.
I know that. Like I said, that's one of the best movies I've ever seen. Similar to Interstellar. It has these crazy graphics. It has just really everything visually you could ever want.
Right.
The main theme of this movie is this family's relationship. What's that quote at the end? Like, in another life, I wish I could have just done laundry and taxes with you.
Yeah.
These people are being visualized as mother and daughter as like rocks, in the Grand Canyon. Right. And you're like, why am I getting emotional over rocks? But that movie is so freaking good. But I'm gonna have to cut that one.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
And then your final keep.
So I'm gonna keep one of the greatest movies of all time. Someone argue the greatest movie of all time. I'm keeping 2001, A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. Definitely one of the best directors of all time, if not the best. Like I said, I need to get more into his stuff, but that movie, was it come out 1968, 69?
Yeah,
I was talking about with Wall-E, how it's a cautionary tale about AI.
It was probably the first sci-fi, big sci-fi to do it.
It kind of started the whole thing.
It did.
And like, how are they thinking about AI back during this time?
It's crazy to know. It's crazy to think about.
So,
for sure.
Especially nowadays with all this stuff coming out.
I know.
This movie was 60, 70 years ahead of its time.
It's more relevant today than it is
than it was
for
back
sure.
then.
So
that's absolutely revolutionary. None of these other movies are as revolutionary.
All right.
And they didn't change the game like 2001.
All right.
Tell me
the 5 you picked, the 5 you kept out of the 10 were Interstellar, Back to the Future, Arrival, Wall-E, 2001: A Space Odyssey. So I feel like that's a solid.
I'm comfortable with that.
That's a solid pick.
I'm definitely comfortable.
Hard list.
I do feel bad leaving The Matrix out. That's probably the one that hurt the most. But yeah. I'm comfortable with
Understandable.
that.
All right. Understandable. Well, that was your pick 5, cut 5.
That was great.
All right, now it's my turn to cry.
All right. So we both didn't obviously want to do the same movies.
No, because we wanted to surprise ourselves.
We wanted to surprise ourselves.
We wanted that authenticity.
I know. And we wanted authenticity. And
it is.
And we wanted it, a little different genre too. So
right.
I'm gonna be giving Michael 10 fantasy movies.
Fantasy. I love a good fantasy. So let's see how it goes.
I do too, man.
I'm excited, but I'm also nervous. So let's
all right, here we go. We're
Give me
going
those movies.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Ooh, Chronicles of Narnia. Yep. Okay.
The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug.
Ooh.
Wizard of Oz.
Okay, classic.
Beauty and the Beast 2017.
Oh, like the live action.
Yeah, the live action with Emma Stone. To throw a curveball at
Emma
you.
Watson.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, Emma Stone, and that would be great.
She's
She'd
on the
be
brain.
great too. I know, because with that Oscar win.
Yes.
Shout out, huge congrats. Harry Potter and Prisoner of Azkaban.
All right.
We're gonna go 1987's The Princess Bride. Princess Bride. We're gonna go Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Ooh, 2 Harry Potters.
We're gonna go Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Oh gosh. Okay, you got a good list here.
Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and then we're gonna go with Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
Oh, you got all
I'm putting the first whole trilogy in there.
Oh man,
in that top 10.
Wow.
It's hard to exclude any of them because they are the 3, I believe.
They're the fantasy. They're the fantasy
best fantasy movies.
They are. Yeah.
So, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, Wizard of Oz, Beauty and the Beast, the live action. Harry Potter and Prisoner of Azkaban, Deathly Hallows Part 2, Princess Bride, and then the 3, Return of the Kings.
Okay. So this okay. All right. So this is an interesting list right off the bat, as I typed it out because I knew I wouldn't
you would forget it.
So I typed them out. So we got Narnia, Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, Wizard of Oz, Beauty and the Beast 2017, Prisoner of Azkaban, Princess Bride, Deathly Hallows 2, Return of the King, Fellowship of the Ring, and Two Towers. So wow, okay. So obviously a great list of fantasy movies. I'm gonna give it first cut. And I feel like this one's the most obvious cut. And I feel like this is the one I got to, and that's being The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug.
Really? That's your first cut?
That's my first cut.
Okay.
I think I got to do Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. Now, that's my favorite Hobbit movie. I'll clarify that. I'm not a fan of Unexpected Journey or Battle of the Five Armies. Not a fan of either of those. But Desolation of Smaug I did enjoy. But it's compared to the rest, it's definitely the weakest.
Yeah.
So I have to cut Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. Not to say, it had some good things in it. Benedict Cumberbatch's Smaug was fantastic.
Yeah, he killed that.
He did kill it, and a lot of other aspects it was a fun watch. But out of these other legendary movies we have in here, I had to cut it.
Yeah, I respect it.
I had to cut it.
I respect it.
So my first keep, do I give the obvious first? I got to give the obvious keep.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's got to be Return of the King, right? That's the obvious keep. Return of the King's the best Lord of the Rings movie out there.
Facts.
It's a phenomenal movie, one of the best movies out there.
Facts.
It has the most Oscar wins out of any movie ever.
That's insane.
And it's on top 10 best movies of all time on IMDb. So, it has to be a pick. You can't deny it, Return of the King. Now, some of these other movies I might enjoy more.
Yeah.
But this one's the best movie on this list.
Yeah,
and I can't deny that. And it's got to be picked on here. Just the whole story. It concludes the amazing trilogy. You just have to pick Return of the King. You can't leave it out of this list. So that's going to be my first pick.
All right.
All right. My next cut. Again, this one also I feel like I have to cut Beauty and the Beast 2017. Unfortunately. Now, not to say, I do think that this is probably Disney's best live action.
Yeah. Massively underrated.
It is.
I've always
it's
thought.
A good movie. I think Emma Watson kills it as Belle.
She kills it.
And
what's his name? Dan Stevens.
Dan Stevens kills it. I love his performance. I love Evermore. The song in it is fantastic. I think it's a great movie. I think Ewan McGregor in it as well, and Josh Gad. A lot of great performances. I think they did a great job staying pretty close to the original Beauty and the Beast film. If you would have put the animated Beauty and the Beast, that might be a different story conversation we're having.
I did not imagine you putting that in your top 5.
I don't know.
I had to throw like a wrench in there somewhere.
You did, but I do definitely have to cut Beauty and the Beast 2017 out of the ones. But it's a fun watch.
It definitely is a fun watch, and I've watched it multiple times.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, my next pick. Okay, so give me the remaining again.
You have Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, The Princess Bride, Deathly Hallows Part 2, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, The Wizard of Oz, and The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
And Narnia. Chronicles of Narnia. Okay, all right. Now this next one is probably my favorite off this list, and I have to pick because I love this movie. I could watch this movie infinity times.
I think I know what you're about to say,
and that's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, I knew that was going to be a pick.
I love this movie, and in my opinion, it's objectively the best Harry Potter movie there is. It's very good. Now, compared to the book, it is different in a lot of aspects, but this is the best Harry Potter movie, hands down, for me anyway, personally, in my opinion. I think it's incredible. The story, Sirius Black, Lupin, all these amazing characters that are just coming to life. I feel like it breathed fire into the rest of the series and it's just kind of that peak point. And I just absolutely love Prisoner of Azkaban, so I have to pick it. Yeah, and definitely my favorite.
It was good pick. It was that first one with that dark tone. The first two were very lighthearted, very light, kid friendly. This one was very dark.
It was, and it was a different director.
So
it makes sense. And this was the only film in the entire series that was directed by this one person.
Really?
Whereas the first two were Chris Columbus and the last few were David Yates. Whereas this one, I forgot who this one was, but I love Prisoner of Azkaban, so I had to pick it.
Go to movie.
Go to movie.
You want me to read you those names,
please? Because this is starting to get hard now.
So you've kept Return of the King, Harry Potter, and the Prisoner of Azkaban. You have Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, Princess Bride, Deathly Hallows Part 2, The Wizard of Oz, and then The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay, now this is getting harder. Okay, this is getting a lot harder, so I got to cut.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I don't want to get slacked for this. This is my thing.
You'll be all right.
All right, so...
We'll just throw hands if they pull up.
That's true. We'll throw hands.
You know?
I got to cut The Princess Bride. I got to cut The Princess Bride.
Okay.
I mean, out of the others remaining, I have to. I mean, just because of the others and how they mean to me personally. Princess Bride, not to get me wrong, fantastic movie. Great fantasy movie. Very highly rated movie.
Yeah.
But a lot of these other movies are either classics or they're just amazing movies in their genre that I just can't deny. So I feel like based off those criteria, even though The Princess Bride is a fantastic movie, I have to cut it.
Wow.
Which is an unfortunate.
That hurts.
I know. I'm sorry.
See, I would consider it a classic.
It is a classic.
It's my mom's probably favorite movie.
It is a classic. It's a lot of people's favorite movie, but it's just, I'm sorry. I can't out of the ones we have remaining.
All right.
Our next keep that we're keeping, I feel like it would be a disservice also not to keep this one. I have to keep Fellowship of the Ring.
Good choice.
This is just one I have to keep as well.
Goated.
Started it all way back in, when did that movie come out? 2001?
Yeah, 2000, 2001, something like that.
And it started the great adventure with Frodo and the Fellowship and the stories that go with it. I mean, you can never forget the great performances. You can't forget Gandalf's great,
Sean Bean
You Shall Not Pass. Sean Bean's fantastic.
You had to die again.
I know. He dies in literally everything.
He dies in everything.
He's died more than anybody else.
He's died the most times.
Rip, my guy, Sean Bean. But it's a fantastic movie that starts it all. Fellowship of the Ring. I really do need to rewatch this trilogy again in a better setting, but... Yeah. But
so how'd you watch it first time?
I watched it on on a very, very small screen, almost the size of a laptop, with the lights on. I know a lot of you are like, holy cow, like how could you watch the flipping Lord of the Rings trilogy on the smallest screen possible with the lights on? And honestly, I don't know why either. That's the thing. But I appreciate having watched them.
Yeah, having the opportunity.
The extended versions at that. Yeah.
That's even worse than that.
4 hours in light on the small screen. It hurt, honestly. So I would love to rewatch that again in the dark on a bigger screen.
Yeah, for sure.
And have a more enjoyable time.
Oh, man.
But anyway, gotta pick Fellowship of the Ring. So give me a recap. What have I picked and cut?
You have kept Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
And then Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban. Then your 3 cuts have been Princess Bride, Beauty and the Beast, and then Desolation of Smaug.
Yeah.
So we have 1, 2, 3. All right. So then we have four movies left. We have 4, and then we have Two Towers, Deathly Hallows Part 2, The Wizard of Oz, and then The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay, so now I gotta keep one.
Now you gotta keep one.
Okay, so now this is getting a lot harder. Chronicles of Narnia, great. Wizard of Oz, a classic, probably the first to do it.
Yeah.
Deathly Hallows Part 2, Two Towers. This is hard. Okay. This is really hard because I'm trying to think like future, like what would future me do?
Yeah. What would past you do?
What would past me do too? I know. I feel like I've got to keep. Oh, this is hard, man. This is honestly so hard.
Yeah.
I gotta keep Narnia. Like I'm keeping
really?
Narnia.
Wow.
I know
that one surprises me.
A lot of people might not think it, but I mean, The Chronicles of Narnia is a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like any way you look at it, now the next two, Prince Caspian and Dawn of the Voyage, I could care less about.
Voyage of Dawn Treader.
I could care less about those two. But The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, that movie is fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, I could watch that movie a million times over. The epic battle scene.
The fight scene at the end.
Aslan, the goat. I mean, and this fantasy movie, I mean, I would say this is probably the first fantasy movie I ever saw.
Yeah.
If I at least had a recollection of that, this or Wizard of Oz, and I feel like Narnia just definitely encapsulated me from the beginning. I loved Narnia. I love it every time I watch it. It never gets old. So I have to pick.
Okay, all right. This was my first ever introduction to James McAvoy.
Yeah, James McAvoy the goat right there.
As Tumnus.
Absolutely.
Liam Neeson, as Narnia.
Narnia
as Aslan.
He is Narnia.
He is Narnia. He was a great casting for that.
Absolutely.
So I am surprised he picked that, honestly.
Yeah,
so
I
now
love Narnia.
It's time for a cut between Wizard of Oz, Two Towers, and then Deathly Hallows Part 2.
So this one might be controversial, but I don't care. I'm cutting Two Towers.
Okay.
Now, again, it's a great movie. I think it's the weakest of the trilogy, in my opinion, but not to say it's not amazing. It is a great movie. The epic battle scene. I love the whole relationship between Legolas and Gimli.
Yeah.
I love the relationship in that movie. I think there's a lot of cool relationships. I hated the plot, though, with Samwise and Frodo. I wasn't a big fan of that. And Gollum, I wasn't a huge fan of that plot. So that brought it down quite a bit as well, along with Merry and Pippin's plot. I wasn't a huge fan of either.
They're just off doing
They're just off riding trees, Wasn't a huge fan of that plot, but Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli carried that movie. in my opinion.
Carried hard. Yeah,
and
the Battle of Helm's Deep
was amazing.
Was pretty cool.
Brilliant, and I feel like that's a big reason Two Towers is kept lasted this long. But I had to cut Two Towers.
Wow. All right. So for your next keep, and this is your final
keep, my final keep.
It's between Deathly Hallows Part 2 and Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do cut. I'm gonna do cut first.
Okay, you can cut first. All right,
and then keep. And this is hard because one, I feel like I should, and then on the other side of me, I'm like, I don't want to. Yeah. And that's the hard part when it comes to this. But I'm going to cut Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you this with reasons. Is actually, in reality, I would keep it if I was judging it purely based on favorite, because I do enjoy this movie better than the one I kept. But Wizard of Oz, the reason I'm keeping Wizard of Oz is it was the first to do it. It was the first to do it, and it is a great movie. It's a classic, and I feel like it's one of the only movies that I feel like every single person on the planet Earth is required to watch at one point or another. Yeah. And you have to keep it for those reasons. I mean, the whole story, there's so much pop culture influence from The Wizard of Oz. And now Wicked coming out later this year, which I am excited about with Ariana Grande and a lot of others. But Wizard of Oz it's that classic movie. Now with Deathly Hallows Part 2, I love it. And I feel like over time, I've actually, when I first watched it, I was like, okay, this is the best movie of all time. But obviously, I've come a lot down to my, really high point right there. Especially, and I don't even think it's the best Harry Potter movie anymore. I think Prisoner of Azkaban takes that. But I have to cut Deathly Hallows. I think it should have been longer. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that it didn't include a lot of the Battle of Hogwarts that I would like from the books.
Yeah.
It didn't show a lot of the stuff that I would have liked to have seen coming from the book reader. But still a fantastic movie in every way and right. The epic battle between Voldemort and Harry to end it all, and just finishing the storyline in a perfect way. So I had to cut Deathly Hallows, but I'm keeping Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
All right, so give me my recap.
Yeah, I totally agree with that pick. So the ones that you cut Deathly Hallows Part 2, Two Towers, Desolation and the Smog, Beauty and the Beast, and Princess Bride, and you kept The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Wizard of Oz, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and then Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, I feel like that's solid. I feel pretty comfortable with it. You can always rethink it, but I feel pretty solid with what I picked fantasy-wise.
I do think if we had directed Deathly Hallows Part 2, it would have been better. Frankly, at the end, I would have showed like everybody dying in the battle.
I would have too. I would have showed
and then I would have made the battle between Harry and Voldemort a lot longer.
Yes.
And in the end, I would have put in the redemption arc for the Malfoy kid.
Yes.
And have him turn his parents.
Lucius.
Now, that would have been cool.
That would have been cool. And but, the books.
Who knows? It might not go with the books.
Yeah, the books didn't go necessarily that way, but it was a little bit better written out. And mostly because you can read it and you can see all the details going in and out. But still, Deathly Hallows Part 2, you can't deny, is still a fantastic movie. But comparatively, I had to.
But I always thought Part 1 was better, to be honest.
Oh, that's an interesting take.
Yeah,
I love Part 1. Yeah. I love it more than most.
Yeah,
but that's over Part 2.
I just like, even though it was more of a setup, I felt like it was much more emotional. And it was more, especially with with
makes you despise Ron.
I loved it, dude. I know. And I've never been a big Ron guy in the first place, but that movie, I was like, if I catch him in the streets
with throwing hands,
throwing hands.
Oh,
dude.
poor Hermione didn't deserve that. Didn't deserve that, dude.
No, she didn't, man. She should have gone with Harry.
I agree. Full-heartedly. And even flipping J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, we should have done that.
She's like, I should have done that. And I was like, rewrite it. Change it.
Yeah. It's not too late.
It's never too late.
Not too late now.
All right. But that was a lot of fun. Our pick 5, whatever we might, who knows? Tomorrow I might wake up and be like, I'm screwed up.
I think I made the wrong.
I've made the wrong decisions. But it's not life or death.
If you see us in public, don't press us.
But, don't kill us.
If you don't agree, man, just send us a DM.
Absolutely. Give us what you picked.
It can be spiteful in nature, but just let us, let us know which ones you would have picked.
DM us and comment which ones you would have picked, and that'd be great.
Yeah. But we were pretty much right.
We're never wrong.
Yeah, something like that. All right, guys. If you've enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download. Our podcast, Here's in the Moment, is available on all major podcast platforms, so go ahead and check that out. If you want to stay up to date with our social media, check out our Instagram at Heroes in the Moment.
And we just want to thank y'all for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.